The Code Snippets panel in Flash Professional contains an abundance of ready-to-use code aligned to specific tasks. This lesson will demonstrate the use of this feature. So here I have a document with the instance of a movie clip symbol on the stage, and this is in a layer called Ball. I also have a layer called Actions, where any of our ActionScript code will go. You'll notice in the library we also have the symbol of this instance called Ball. The instance itself is called Ball with a lowercase b, and that's how we'll be able to refer to this object through ActionScript. So to use the Code Snippets panel, if you're in Essentials, it's accessible from right here, Code Snippets. And if it isn't open, if it's not open in your particular workspace, you can go to Window and then find Code Snippets right here. So when we open up the Code Snippets panel, we're able to actually go through all these different categories here. So for instance, looking at some of these, maybe I want to choose animation because I want to have that ball on the stage actually do something. So to get this to work, we're going to go down and find something that looks kind of interesting and interactive. So here's one, move with keyboard arrows. So if you've never worked in ActionScript before, you might not have any idea how to do this. But if you click on this, we're able to get information on this. So what does that mean, move with keyboard arrows? It tells you right here. Allows the object to be moved with the keyboard arrows, right? And then this little code doohickey here allows us to see what will actually be inserted. So how do we actually do this? It's pretty simple. You just hit Insert, and it tells you you have to replace the instance name. So to replace the instance name, you can just double click on it, and we're going to want to say Ball, because we're adding that to our Ball instance. And let's insert. So we see the code snippet inserted message here go straight down to our actions layer. And if we go to Window and choose Actions to open up the Actions panel, we can see the code that was actually inserted. So this is the full snippet of what was inserted from that little panel. We have a number of different instructions here, and then we have the actual code. So we've got some variables being declared, and these are typed as Boolean. A Boolean is either true or false. By default, it's false, and they're being set explicitly to false in this example. It's then going through and adding an event listener to our ball of type event.enterFrame, and this executes upon every single frame. So if our movie is playing at 24 frames per second, it's going to execute 24 frames per second. We then add a number of key listeners, or keyboard listeners rather, to our stage for both key down and key up. And here, it's invoking both of these guys, so set key pressed and unset key pressed. So this is explicitly for keyboard up, so we're looking for when someone has actually released a key on the keyboard. They're not pressing it anymore. And here it just toggles all of these to false, whereas if we actually are pressing the key down, it toggles into true. This way it sort of locks in which direction the user wants to go in. And then here is our enter frame, and this is just checking whether up is pressed, down is pressed, and so forth, and then changing both the X and Y coordinates of our ball based upon which particular key has been toggled. So if you're coming to this without an ActionScript background whatsoever, you'd probably have no idea how to write all this code. But with code snippets, you can just insert it, and you can easily learn what's going on from that. So let's close our Actions panel here, and we'll actually test this. So we'll go to Control, Test Movie, and Test. And I'm going to just move my arrow keys around. And you can see that as I'm moving stuff down and left and up and so forth, my ball is responding to my arrow keys. So it's a very immediate way of learning how to do something in ActionScript without having to kind of muck through and torture yourself with a lot of documentation. You can just use the code snippet, examine it for what it does. You can change some of the properties to see how that affects the code execution. and just try it out and experiment. So this has been an example of how to use the Code Snippets panel in Flash Professional CS6.